Hi, welcome to another IGCSE physics video. In this video we're looking at section 1.11, which is energy resources. In this video we will learn about renewable energy resources and non-renewable energy resources. So what is a non-renewable energy resource? A non-renewable energy resource is a source of energy that can be exhausted. Non-renewable energy resources deplete at a higher rate than nature can replace them. The most common non-renewable energy resources are fossil fuels that we find underground. From middle school, you'd know that these three fossil fuels are coal, oil, and gas. The gas is more commonly known as natural gas. Coal is formed when dead plant matter decays over time over the course of millions of years. And as that decayed matter gets deeper into the earth, the heat and the pressure on that material also increases, which turns that organic matter into coal. Oil and gas also form from a similar process like coal. But let's talk about how energy is harnessed from these fossil fuels. So before these resources are transported to a power plant, the coal is first mined in ores, and the oil that is buried deep underground in channels, which is also found with natural gas, is extracted through oil rigs. These resources are then transported to a power plant, in which they undergo a process known as combustion, and that process releases a lot of energy. A combustion is a type of chemical reaction in which the fuel like coal, oil, or gas are reacted with oxygen gas in very hot air that blows in a blast furnace. So when the coal or the oil or gas reacts with the oxygen gas, the chemical reaction produces the products of steam, which is water in its gaseous state, and you also get carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct. The steam is what we need to produce electricity. In the power plant, the steam runs through a turbine, which turns the generator and produces electricity. And then the electricity that is produced, it goes to the power lines, which are those tall structures that transport electricity along wires to your house. And the voltage and the current settings of the electricity can be suited to the needs of different households, which is done by the use of transformers. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of using fossil fuels as an energy resource. Fossil fuels are quite abundant today, however they're running out soon, and they're relatively inexpensive. However, the disadvantages come when you look at the byproduct of the combustion reaction, which is the carbon dioxide part. The carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, which causes global warming, and there's also a lot of pollution that comes out from the chimneys when the combustion process is completed. Especially in coal power plants, you can see that black soot coming from the ash that is left over. Another non-renewable energy resource is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy that we harness involves the process of nuclear fission, which is basically splitting one atom with a lot of mass, like a uranium atom, and that splits into two smaller atoms when you bombard a neutron particle into it. So when that uranium atom splits, you get two smaller atoms, and that releases a lot of energy. So just like fossil fuels, the energy from the fission of the uranium fuel, we get a lot of energy, which is used to heat up water and turn turbines, which in turn run the generators, and then the electricity is distributed to the power grid. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy. The advantage is that a small amount of uranium fuel, so if you have small fuel and you make it undergo nuclear fission, then that will release a lot of energy. So the amount of electricity that you can produce from that small fuel is a lot. However, the major disadvantage of using nuclear energy is that the fission of the uranium atoms produces a lot of radiation, which isn't good for the environment. And you also have to deal with storing the nuclear waste. And so if the radiation is leaked from the stored nuclear waste, it's not good for the environment. It could lead to nearby water bodies like rivers, which is also why nuclear power plants are usually built far away from cities. Now let's talk about renewable energy resources. Renewable energy resources are resources of energy from nature that are not exhaustible. So you can keep getting energy from nature without it being depleted. So in the future we will have to turn to renewable energy resources because one day the fossil fuels will expire. Let's talk about some examples of renewable energy resources. One of them is tidal energy, in which dams are built near rivers, lakes, or seas. High and low tides caused by the gravity of the moon cause the flow of water to run turbines and the generator, which in turn produces the electricity. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of tidal energy. In tidal energy, there's no pollution. Tidal energy is also renewable, so the resource won't deplete and you can sustainably live on tidal energy if you want. However, the disadvantages are that tidal energy is quite expensive, and you can't build it everywhere because if you live in a landlocked country like Kazakhstan, so if you live in a country that has no surrounding body of water, and this is your country, then you have no water body to have the tides occur, so you can't build a tidal energy power plant to harness electricity from the tides. Another example of a renewable energy resource is wave energy. So in wave energy, just like tidal energy, you have generators which are worked to produce electricity by the motion of water waves at sea. So this time you don't have to depend on the tides. So the advantages of wave energy are that there's no pollution, just like tidal energy, and it's also renewable, so the resource will never deplete. The disadvantages, however, are that wave energy plants are hard to build, and you also have to run them in the middle of the sea, so you're far away from the mainland. And you also can't use them everywhere because you need to have a large body of water like a sea or an ocean. Hydroelectric power is another source of renewable energy. In hydroelectric power, you can use rainwater, and when the water level of the lake starts to rise, you can open the barriers which allow the water to pass through, and the water that runs down from the river or the lake can be used to turn turbines, which in turn make the generators work, which produces electricity. So the disadvantages of hydroelectric power are that it has a small environmental impact, which is not good for the environment. However, the advantage is that it's renewable and you get a constant production of electricity. Another renewable source is geothermal energy, which is when water is pumped down to hot rocks deep in the earth, and the water rises as steam as the hot rocks transfer energy to the water. And the steam turns the turbines, which runs the generator, and electricity is produced. So the advantage of geothermal energy is that there's no pollution, but the disadvantage is that it's very expensive to drill deep underground. So that takes a lot of money to do, and it's also a difficult job. Another renewable resource is wind energy, in which windmills are moved from the wind. The turning turbines make the generators work and electricity is generated. So the advantage is that wind energy is renewable and there's also no pollution. However, the disadvantage is that wind turbines produce a low amount of electricity, so you need to have a lot of land and a lot of windmills if you want to produce an enough amount of electricity. And it's also variable amounts of electricity, because if you have low wind, then you have low electricity, and you have high wind speeds, then you have more electricity that is produced. And you also can't have wind energy everywhere because not all areas on the earth receive a lot of wind, or some countries don't have enough space to build wind turbines for wind energy. And finally, another resource is solar energy, in which solar panels absorb light. So you have solar panels that are often found in rows that are placed elegantly, and they face towards the sun. So the sun shines brightly, and the solar panels, they absorb that light and convert it to heat energy. And that heat is used to heat up water, which runs turbines. And in turn, it also makes the generator work, which produces electricity. So the advantage of solar energy is that there's no pollution and it's also renewable. And the disadvantages of solar energy are the electricity production is variable, because if you have a lot of sunshine for the entirety of the year, then you produce a lot of energy. Solar energy also requires a large space to install the solar panels for the production of energy, and not every country has enough space to meet the demands of a large population. Solar panels are more useful for the electrification of villages that don't have electricity. And this is it for section 1.11. I hope you found this video helpful and you understand the renewable energy resources and the non-renewable energy resources. Leave a like if you found this video helpful, and subscribe for more videos in the future. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.